Welcome and thank you for joining us. I'm Jean Mizutani from INCLUDEnyc. INCLUDE is a New York City organization that works with families that have children and youth with disabilities. This is one of a series of live stream presentations that we offer on the third Thursday of each month at noon. Thank you so much for joining us. We will keep this to under 60 minutes. We will use a chat box. So if you have any questions, please feel free to ask and we'll do our best to answer. You should also have received an email with the digital handout packet. There's lots of interesting information in there that I'm sure you're going to appreciate later, so please check your email. Today's guests are from the New York City Department of Education's Office of Specialized Programs for Students with Autism Spectrum Disorder. Kate Dolan-Cheney works with the ASD Central Team, and Barbara Solomon Sparagon, is a member of their clinical team. Welcome and thanks for coming.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thank you, Jean.
Today's topic is kindergarten for children with ASD. As you may know, students with autism spectrum disorder have a wide range of capabilities, and because of that wide range of capabilities, they could be found in just about any school, program, or setting. Now is the perfect time to discuss kindergarten options for children born in 2012, because this is the kindergarten application season. You may have heard of it by now. The New York City kindergarten application season began on November 30th and it runs through January 13th. These applications are for admission to typical neighborhood schools, and we will include information about that in our handouts. Neighborhood schools offer special education services, and many children with ASD will do well there. But this is also the perfect time to learn about specialized ASD programs because the greatest number of seats is available at the kindergarten entry point. So please share a little background with us about the ASD programs.
Hi, Jean. So the first thing we want to do is talk about what autism is. So autism is a developmental disability that affects nonverbal and verbal language. It also has an impact on social functioning for students. And because kids or students with autism have unique needs, the New York City Department of Education has developed two programs. The ASD Nest program, which was designed with our partner NYU Steinhardt, and we have the ASD Horizon program, which was also works in collaboration with the New England Center for Children.
That's very interesting. So what are the features of the two programs?
So the ASD Nest program is an integrated co-teaching class. The ASD Horizon program is a special class, small class, with opportunities for inclusion into the general ed environment. Both classes have specialized supports for children on the spectrum, and they exist in some districts and some community schools. In both programs, the children follow the New York State Common Core learning standards, and at third grade they're expected to take the regular state tests, and they're expected to graduate from high school with a Regents diploma. They're both academic and rigorous academic programs.
And that's a lovely goal for kids on the spectrum.
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
So we call these programs specialized programs. What does that mean in the context of the Department of Education's special ed programs and service offerings?
Okay. So most children with disabilities, including most children on the spectrum, as you said before, go to their regular district schools and do well there. DOE recognizes that there are students who may be best served in a program that has specialized models and specialized expertise and teachers with specialized training. Specialized programs are not expected to exist in every community school or even in every district.
Okay. The Department of Education also offers another special ed program called Citywide or District 75 programming. How do these community school specialized programs differ from District 75?
Well, I think that's a great question because that's a question we often get at the Central ASD Programs team. The ASD programs are part of Districts 1 through 32. Our goal in the ASD programs is to educate our children alongside their typically developing peers. District 75 students often require more supports for their academics and behavior. They offer extended school year which means it would be more of a 12-month programming. ASD programs is 10-month programming with some optional summer programming for elementary students for their social skills.
Okay, and what is the capacity for the specialized programs?
So at the current moment, we have ASD programs in 60 schools across the city in all 5 boroughs. There is, NEST currently runs in K through 12, and Horizon is K through 9. As those children age up, they'll attend, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade.
So it will be
it'll be a K through 12 program.
So you're expanding Horizon. Eventually, it will go up through 12th grade?
Yes, as these children age up, they will attend Horizon classes. Right now, the capacity for the programs is 1,784 seats. I think we have 1,495 children actually in those seats. And that includes 240 kindergarten seats for the current 16-17 school year. 240 kindergarten seats in 31 schools across the city.
That's great. Tell me a little bit about the points of entry.
So, as you said, kindergarten is the place where we've got the greatest availability for placement. But we accept applications and place children at all grades.
Okay. What kind of children can best be supported by a specialized ASD program?
Students benefiting from either the NEST, ASD NEST program or the ASD Horizon program are students who have been evaluated and meet the eligibility criteria for the program. This important thing here to really just bring out for the families to understand is that students must meet the New York State definition for a classification of autism. Students who, IEP teams will work with families to administer testing to help in that classification of autism if necessary. Students applying to the programs must meet the program eligibility requirements in 5 areas. So we have in terms of cognitive and intelligence, if that would be an IQ. The next one would be academic or achievement. We have a speech and language criteria in terms of how much speech and language delay they can have, and also in regard to their behavior and for social functioning. So the children also have to meet the criteria in those areas as well.
Right, so you have 2 distinct programs, the NEST and the Horizon. Which children fit best under which program?
So let's talk about both of those programs. I think it's really important to look at what the ASD, let's start with the ASD NEST program. So the ASD NEST program is an ICT model. It has, it's in some community schools, as Barbara said before. It's an ICT, which is a integrated co-teaching model. It has 2 teachers, 1 special ed and 1 regular ed. For kindergarten, let's talk specifically because this is a T5 conversation. We would look to serve 4 students with a diagnosis of autism, and would work with 8 students who are typically developing in that class. So it is a decreased class size, so it's an ICT class of a total of 8, 4 children with a diagnosis of autism, and 8 typically developing peers. This is run through cooperation with NYU Steinhardt. We also have a social curriculum that's specific to the NEST program that's called Social Development Interventions that really help it's integrated into the program to help these children with their social language needs.
Okay, so that program size is 12 for the ASD NEST.
For kindergarten.
For kindergarten, okay.
And that program will increase as the children get older, size capacity. The ASD Horizon program is a small class program with 8 students, 1 teacher, and 1 paraprofessional. This program is run with cooperation with the New England Center for Children, and we use this really amazing resource, which is called the ACE curriculum, which is the Autism Curriculum Encyclopedia, and it's an evidence-based program that uses philosophies from applied behavioral analysis, or ABA.
Okay, so that's 8 children, and it's not an inclusion program.
Correct, but there are opportunities for inclusion as the children gain skills.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If parents are interested in a specialized program, which steps should they take?
So for children who are in the turning 5 process, the first step is for the parents to fill out an application. And the application can be found in the electronic package that that's you've gotten in an email. It's important for parents to remember that for children entering kindergarten, they don't need to have had contact with their Turning 5 team, with their IEP team. Yet they can fill out an application at any time during their child's final year in preschool. They can fill it out in conjunction with their child's preschool, or they can do it on their own. They can call us for help in completing the application. Any way they do it, we'd like to get the application.
Okay, so when we discussed this initially, you basically said it's different for the Turning 5 children. The parent doesn't need to wait. They can submit an application now, even in the absence of new evaluations
Correct.
or other paperwork.
Correct, correct.
Okay, so
Yes.
by taking that step, right, that's all it is.
That's all it is, right.
That's pretty wonderful, because I believe that some parents are probably waiting to learn who their Turning 5 coordinator
Right,
is, and now
right.
we know that there's absolutely no
There's
reason
no
to wait
bar to sending us in an application.
and waste that time.
Exactly.
What about a student that isn't getting preschool services at present?
They can also send us an application.
That's amazing. So there's no such thing as too early. Anytime this year is perfect for the
Correct.
Turning 5.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And there's also, there's really not too late. They need to, they need to do it sometime during this school year.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about that, because most parents are very anxious and they think that they're going to get, they're
Right.
not going to have an opportunity unless they do it today. Tell us a little bit about the concept of it's not too late.
Okay. Well, I think the first thing that we'd like to message to parents is that we understand just how overwhelming this whole Turning 5 thing is. And just so you know, my daughter is going through just applying to regular kindergarten for my grandson right now, and I get to see just how overwhelmed she is with all the information that's out there. So parents of children who are turning 5 can send us an application at any time. And what happens when they send us an application is they will get an acknowledgement from our office that they've gotten the application. And the next thing that happens is that they will get a phone call from a member of the ASD Central team. And we then become their point of contact for the ASD application. So they have someone that they can call if they're feeling as though things aren't moving or
They
want
want
to know
more
what the step.
clarification.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's what we're there for.
Right. So tell us a little bit about the kind of evaluations that are required.
So the kinds of evaluations that are required is that for children turning 5, we're looking for a complete psychological evaluation as well as academic evaluation. We want to also make sure that there's an autism measure. We spoke about that before. To be considered for the programs, you have to have a classification of autism on your IEP. So what we would do is help to facilitate with the T5 teams or the IEP teams to make sure that that is what we're doing. So we're looking at really specific academic and IQ testing, and as well as the autism measure. Although it's not required, I think that this is something that's really important to stress here. Outside testing will also be reviewed from the office. It's not necessary. All evaluations can be sought and provided by the Department of Education. We will consider outside evaluations and put that in combination with the school assessments and also the school record.
But this is one of the most common questions I get. Do I need an independent evaluation? And you're saying the answer to that is no.
No.
That if the parent has it, it'll become part of the packet. It'll be considered, but it's not necessary.
It's not necessary.
Right.
That's good information.
Yeah.
Now, when you mentioned the T5 team, do you mean the IEP team that conducts the kindergarten IEP meeting?
Yes, it's the team that is responsible for evaluating and conducting an IEP meeting to determine what the child's special education needs are for their kindergarten year. It's very often the team from the family's local zoned public school. Sometimes it's not, but it's in the greatest number of instances, that's what team it is. Parents should hear sometime during January from that team. And at least in my borough, I ask families to get in contact with me if they haven't heard from a turning 5 teen during the month of January.
Right. See, I wanted to clarify that because we use shorthand. We say things like T5 teen, but actually
Right.
it's the entire process that helps the student transition from preschool to kindergarten.
Right.
And I had mentioned earlier that some parents think they really need to wait until they hear who the Turning 5 coordinator is. As you just mentioned, a letter will go out, and on the back of the letter it'll actually say who the responsible party is and where their office is, what their phone number is, so you can contact them. That person we usually refer to as the Turning 5 coordinator because that's a point person for the family. So that's a good contact to keep handy, isn't
Absolutely.
it? And you work directly with them.
Yeah,
We do.
Exactly.
I like that.
What our goal is to have open communication between families, T5 teams, and the ASD central office.
Right.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love the way that sounds.
Yeah.
So once the application is in, and now we know all this information has to be gathered, who guides the process to gather all that information?
The ASD Central team really does. So, we get applications, we make contact with the family, so again, they have a point of contact with us even before they have contact with their Turning 5 team, if that's the case. So, once we find out who the child's the case has been assigned to in terms of a Turning 5 coordinator, we make contact with that person, with the team in that zoned public school. And I always ask parents to tell their Turning 5 team when they make contact that they've submitted an ASD application, or that they're interested in submitting an ASD application. And at the same time, I'm calling that team and saying, this family is interested in ASD. Because what happens is we need a complete new evaluation.
Exactly.
We need a new IQ test, we need new achievement testing, sometimes we need speech and language testing, so we can arrange with that Turning 5 team to get all that testing done in a timely way.
This is really significant because I know that decisions on which evaluations to conduct depend on many different circumstances.
Correct.
There is no automatic set of evaluations that is done.
Right.
So I would actually venture to go a little further and suggest that if a parent is interested, they write a little note to the Turning 5 coordinator and let them know. It's so easy to forget a comment. Right, if they're applying to a specialized program, I would write back to the Turning 5 coordinator and let them know that so that they have the opportunity to make the arrangements for all the necessary evaluations. That is pretty terrific. So what happens once an application is submitted? We talked about this a little, but tell me more.
Okay, so the application comes into our office. It can come in via email, it can come by fax, it can come by regular mail. You'll get a receipt. If you submit via email, you'll get an email back saying we've got the application.
I just want to jump in here because email is really our preferred method of receiving applications.
Right.
It just seems to be the easiest way, and for parents that don't, or for families that don't have access, we obviously would do fax or mail.
Right. A few days after the application comes in, family should get a phone call from someone at ASD Central, and then the family has someone's contact information in the central office so that they can always find out exactly what's going on.
And typically that's broken down by borough. So we would look at, so we would be dealing, Barbara and I work specifically with Staten Island, so we would be the point of contact people for all people applying for Staten Island.
At that point, we are then in contact with the Turning 5 team once they're assigned, in letting that team know what evaluations are necessary. And as those evaluations come in, we review them and we see where the child's skills lie in regard to the eligibility criteria. And then we're in contact with the family about next steps.
Okay. What kind of issues might cause a delay in the process?
I think that something specifically is us, or the central team, needing to seek additional evaluations. So if we need to have a new a psychological or a new academic testing, that tends to be an area where it can pose some delay.
Right,
so
but that would be typical, wouldn't it, where most of the kids do need a new psychological?
Yes. Except for I guess the rare circumstance where a child has just started to get preschool services, where they've just had their initial evaluation through CPSE. Doesn't happen all that often.
But that would be current enough because it's brand new.
In general, it's current enough.
In general.
Yeah.
Okay, so the timeline from beginning of application to when the parent learns if their child has been accepted is uncertain. So parents are always asking me, what happens if I go to my kindergarten IEP meeting and I haven't heard back yet and I don't know?
Right.
We often hear that question.
Yeah.
Right.
And that happens fairly often because they're two parallel processes that are happening at the same time. And sometimes the Turning 5 team has the information that they need to make a good recommendation for what supports that child needs for kindergarten. Outside of an ASD. So what we ask them to do is we ask them to make the best recommendation for the child's support for kindergarten year.
Right.
Now, if we then, after that initial IEP meeting, are making an offer of a seat in an ASD program, we work with the IEP team and the family to schedule what's called a reconvene meeting to rework the IEP to reflect that ASD placement.
Okay, so that is really important information because you know, parents go to IEP meetings very shaken up because they might have their eye on a specialized program and be reluctant to consider other options. But the truth is, an appropriate IEP has to be developed.
Correct.
And you utilize the best options that are available.
Correct.
That seem to reflect and match, you know, the child's needs. And if that child is accepted later, you're saying it's not a problem to reconvene and make that change.
Exactly. Exactly.
I know many parents will be very happy to hear that, very relieved. What about a placement issue? Because sometimes it goes beyond the IEP meeting. The IEP has been developed, a recommendation has been made. Eventually, by June at the latest, a school location letter will be provided. And now the parent is still wondering the same question. What should I do? Should I go ahead and enroll? I'm still hoping to hear back from the Office of Specialized Programs. What should they do?
That's a really good question, and I don't know specifically if they should accept that placement or not. If we could get that on the that question sent into the ASD programs mailbox.
Okay.
We can do a little bit of
a little
detective
research
work. Yeah, because I don't think that we had that issue last year, but there may be other boroughs where that happened. So
I'm only asking because most parents will receive their school location letter by early June, and in the rare event that it takes the specialized programs office longer to issue an acceptance, then again the parent might be afraid I've you know, accepted something that really wasn't my first choice.
That would not be, it wouldn't be an issue. In terms of how exactly, what the mechanism is for rescinding your consent for that placement. But it wouldn't be an issue. It wouldn't be like we'd say, oh, you signed for placement, we can't place you.
Okay, that's my understanding as well, that a parent would say, no thank you, my child's been accepted for the ASD Horizon, I'm going to accept that. Okay, I think that's reassuring. I think it is. And by the way, please note what she mentioned just now, the email to reach, it's actually ASD programs.
Programs.
ASD programs, yes.
At schools. .nyc.gov.
Okay, wonderful. And you will see that in the handout material, so you don't need to race and write it down right now. That is terrific. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about students that aren't accepted, because we already know that not every application is successful.
Correct.
So I think that that's what we try to do at ASD is obviously we're always trying to help encourage families to reach back out to their IEP teams or their Turning 5 teams to look at and to develop, explore the options within that district or in their school zone to find a placement that would be able to support that student at their current level. So we're always encouraging, you know, it's you will have communication from our offices and in regard to the application moving forward or not, but we always would encourage a family to reach back out to the T5 team, and we're also in communication with the T5 team during that also, that if there was an application for a program and we decided, or it was felt that the program could not support the student's needs, we would work with the team to get to have them find a new place.
I understand. I mean, whether it's an ASD application or any other, to be honest with you, most parents don't know what the right setting is this early on.
Correct.
One of the things that I try to help parents understand at this point in the process is that you're not actually making decisions now. You're trying to open opportunities. You're trying to get the confidence to move forward and open options. And that could mean applying to the community school system. It could mean the charter system. It could mean touring a District 75 program if the people at your child's preschool thinks that that might be appropriate. So none of those steps are binding.
Nope.
These are initial exploratory steps for the purpose of getting additional information. And by having that, you have more options and you have more safety.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yes, I've had many parents in the past saying, well, I've applied for Nest, so I'm not going to do anything else. And I hasten to tell them,
Yes.
please don't rely on that alone.
Absolutely.
Open every possible option.
Exactly.
We talked a little earlier about how students with ASD have a very wide range of capabilities. So I do encourage parents, think as broadly as you can and get out there and look around. There are open houses, there are school tours, there's information everywhere you look, and this is the right time. You know, we talked about, is this a good date for our broadcast? People are busy, it's a holiday, people are cold. But yes, it is,
Yes.
because this is kindergarten application season. It really is.
Right.
So this time should be used well. We haven't had any questions so far. Are we covering everything? Is there anything anybody would like to ask? Please don't hesitate to use the chat box if there is. Now later on, when you open your digital handout package, you're going to see a brochure about District 75 programs. I think this is useful because we discussed a few moments ago that some kids need less support. They might be successful in community schools with services, in charter schools with services, but there's always some that need a significantly, greater amount of support and intervention, and that's where District 75 comes in. Now, I mentioned before that when I talk with kindergarten parents, they often say, I don't know what is right. And I say to them, you can't know what is right in December. It's so early in the process, there's no way to know. But I encourage them to go out and look. And with the aid of this District 75 brochure that actually names schools that welcome families for tours, it's an opportunity to actually see with your own eyes what is a 12 to 1 to 1 in a District 75 school. What is a 6 to 1 to 1? They're not going there to select that. It's not on offer. The schools are making the visits available so that parents can know what the programs are like. And many parents that I've worked with have gone, and they've either come back and said to me, there's no way that's for my child. And I say, great, you're making progress because now you know that you're ruling that out. Or a parent may come back and say, these kids look a lot like my child and it's something I'm going to think about. Again, they've made tremendous progress. I encourage all of you to utilize the Department of Education's website for directories, and that includes charter school information, which is really pretty amazing. So now, the all-important question, where can families go for help?
Well, on the DOE website and attached in the electronic package is the Family Resource Guide, which is really the ASD Programs Family Resource Guide, which is just chock full of information about what the profiles of ASD Nest and Horizon students are.
That's great.
And what supports are available in those classes and how to apply and
it's very descriptive.
It's very descriptive. The one thing I would mention is that that's a general guide and it's written both for Turning 5 families and for school-age families. So the part where it says that you need to have testing in order to submit an application does not apply for Turning 5 students. So just,
Would you mind repeating
that?
That's important. One more time, please.
So if your child is turning 5, in other words, if your child is born in 2012, and you're interested in ASD programs, please send us an application. You don't have to wait for your Turning 5 team to contact you and to start evaluating your child. We'd rather find out about the child now than wait for the testing.
Okay, and that's different than what it says on the application?
Well, the application also speaks to the school-age process, and for a school-age child, we need the application to come in with current testing. So it's a little bit different.
That's really amazing. Okay, so actually, at this moment in time, I'm going to venture to say that parents don't need help. It's early, seriously, it's early in the process. This is a chance to investigate, to learn, to see. And ultimately, if there are questions, if a parent has concerns or is wondering about next steps, they can always call us. Since you've all registered online, you already know where our website is and most of our information is there. But in addition to that, in the digital handout packet, we've included the helpline card. You'll see that there's an English and a Spanish helpline number. So I encourage you, please give a call. That call will lead to a phone appointment with a specialist, somebody like me, and you'll have a chance to ask your questions one-on-one. So please feel free to do that. One last chance for questions, and then we're going to wrap up. We've covered a whole lot of information. Okay, I'm going to say we're good. Please stay tuned for our future live streams, which, as I mentioned before, are on the third Thursday of each month during the school year. You'll find out more about those topics and other presentations that we offer on our website. One other thing, if you've missed a live stream, do not worry. We have a whole little library of videos. You can see the special ed mediation live stream that we did about a month ago, for example, which is really terrific.
Wow.
And very topical. It's pretty wonderful to have it in the library, always available for when you have the time on your own schedule. So we will see you at the next Include Live, real conversations on parenting and disability. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thank you.